After 15 years with TechVantage, Marjorie Thompson's announcement echoed through the small conference room. Her voice barely concealed a sense of satisfaction as she sat across from me, flanked by Denise from HR. Both wore expertly crafted expressions of corporate regret. "The company is shifting in a new direction," Denise explained, sliding a manila folder across the table. "Your contributions have been appreciated, but we're consolidating the research division under the product development team." I nodded thoughtfully, accepting the folder without even glancing at its contents. I knew what to expect: the standard severance package, 2 weeks' pay for every year of service, continued health coverage for 3 months, and a list of career counseling resources I had no intention of using. "I understand completely," I said, my voice calm. "Such decisions are never easy." Relief crossed their faces as if they had anticipated tears, protests, or anger. After all, I was a 55-year-old woman being pushed out of the tech industry, where youth was always favored over experience. But what they didn't realize was that I had been expecting this moment for weeks. A misdirected email thread had tipped me off last month. "Please clear out your desk by Friday," Marjorie continued, her confidence growing as she saw my composed reaction. "We'll need your key card, company laptop, and phone before you leave. Your team will be notified this afternoon." My team, 6 brilliant engineers I had personally recruited and mentored, was the same group that helped develop the distributed processing algorithm now powering TechVantage's flagship product, AccountSphere. This software was used by over 40% of the Fortune 500 companies. "Of course," I said, rising from my chair. "Is there anything else?" They exchanged puzzled glances, clearly thrown off by my calm demeanor. Marjorie was the first to recover. "That's all for now. Thank you for handling this professionally." As I walked back to my office, I passed the glass-walled conference room where the executive team was meeting. Through the transparent barrier, I could see CEO Victor Lawson gesturing at a PowerPoint slide titled, "Q3 Revenue Projections." This was the same Victor Lawson who had taken credit for my algorithm at last year's industry conference, referring to me only as one of our research team members. I closed my office door and pulled out my personal phone, sending a single text message. "It's happening. Friday's my last day." The reply came almost immediately. "Perfect timing. The contracts are ready. Dinner tonight to finalize details." I smiled as I looked at the calendar on my desk. Today was Wednesday. Friday would be my last day at TechVantage, and Monday would be a new chapter. That evening I met Gregory Sullivan at Meridian, a high-end restaurant far from TechVantage's headquarters. As CEO of Precision Systems, the company's largest competitor, Greg understood the importance of discretion. He had reserved a private dining alcove, shielded from prying eyes by elegant Japanese screens. "They actually did it," Greg said, shaking his head after we ordered. "I suspected they might, but to fire the very person who developed their core technology?" "Victor never understood what I actually created," I replied, sipping my water. "He saw the implementation, the user interface, the marketing potential. But the underlying architecture, that was just tech stuff to him." The irony of it all was nearly overwhelming. 3 months ago, I discovered that TechVantage's legal team had failed to file the patent for my distributed processing algorithm. When I asked about it, they assured me they would handle it immediately. But something seemed off, so I checked the company's internal documentation. That's when I found a strategy memo outlining plans to claim the algorithm as company-developed technology, without any inventor attribution. They had planned to push me out before securing the patent, knowing that intellectual property developed by employees typically belonged to the company. What they didn't know was that I'd already been working on improvements to the algorithm on my own time, using my personal equipment. These refinements, which boosted processing efficiency by 43%, weren't covered by my employment agreement. I filed for a patent under my own name last month, complete with timestamps and development logs that proved the work had been done outside of company hours. The patent was granted swiftly, thanks to Greg's connection with a top-tier IP attorney. "All the paperwork is finalized," Greg said, sliding a folder across the table. "Once you sign, Precision Systems will acquire exclusive licensing rights to your patent. The press release goes out Monday morning, and you'll be announced as our new Chief Innovation Officer." I reviewed the documents carefully, although I had already memorized the key terms. A 7-figure signing bonus, substantial equity in Precision Systems, and ongoing royalties from all products using my algorithm. What do you think Victor's face will look like when he realizes what's happened? Greg asked, barely able to hide his satisfaction at the thought. I'm more concerned about my team, I admitted. They don't deserve to be caught in the fallout. Greg nodded. We've already addressed that. We have positions for all 6 of them, senior roles with significant raises if they're interested. I signed the final page. In one swift motion, I had secured my future, ensured my team's success, and positioned myself for a new beginning. To new beginnings, Greg said, raising his glass. And to owning your own value, I added, clinking my glass with his. Thursday and Friday flew by in a haze of exit interviews, knowledge transfer meetings, and farewells to colleagues. I maintained my professionalism throughout, even as whispers spread through the company. Administrative assistants gave me sympathetic glances in the hallways, and junior developers awkwardly approached, asking for LinkedIn recommendations before I left. I documented everything meticulously, every project, every password, every process. TechVantage would soon realize just how crucial I had been. During my final exit interview on Friday afternoon, Denise from HR went through the standard checklist with mechanical efficiency. You understand that any intellectual property developed during your employment remains the property of TechVantage, she stated, pushing a non-disclosure agreement across the table. Of course, I replied, smiling pleasantly. Anything developed within the scope of my employment, using company resources and during company time. I emphasized the last part just enough for her to miss it. And you affirm that you have no copies of proprietary company information? She asked. I have taken nothing that belongs to TechVantage, I confirmed, knowing the patent was mine. As I packed my personal items from my desk, family photos, a collection of conference badges marking 15 years of industry events, and the coffee mug my team had given me last Christmas, Marjorie stopped by, leaning casually against the door frame. I just wanted to check that everything's clear for your departure, she said, watching me carefully. I began packing items into a cardboard box, carefully wrapping a small award I'd received for the very algorithm that had become central to my plans. The irony wasn't lost on me as I placed it gently between layers of tissue paper. You know, Kira, these restructuring decisions are never personal, Marjorie continued. Victor feels the company needs to move in a more youthful direction. I looked up, meeting her gaze directly. I understand completely. Business is business. Something in my tone caused her to hesitate for a brief moment, a flicker of uncertainty crossing her face. But she quickly shook it off as if dismissing it. What could a soon-to-be unemployed 55-year-old woman possibly do? Will you be taking some time off? She asked, an artificial note of concern lacing her voice. Actually, I already have something lined up, I replied. I start Monday. Surprise briefly crossed her features. That was quick. Anything interesting? I smiled. Very. A leadership position. I'm quite excited about it. She nodded absently, already shifting her focus to other matters. Well, good luck with that. As I walked out of TechVantage's glass headquarters for the final time, keycard surrendered and personal belongings in tow, I paused to look back at the building where I had spent 15 years of my career. On the top floor, I could see the executive conference room lit up for an evening meeting, likely discussing how to redistribute my responsibilities among younger, less experienced, and significantly cheaper staff. Little did they know, in less than 72 hours, that same room would be hosting an emergency crisis meeting. Monday morning arrived bright and clear. I dressed carefully in a new charcoal suit, a power outfit I'd purchased specifically for the day. The Precision Systems town car arrived exactly at 7:30 a.m., ready to take me to their headquarters, where I would begin my first day as Chief Innovation Officer. The press release went live at 7 a.m., Greg informed me as I settled into my new corner office with floor-to-ceiling windows. Industry newsletters are already picking it up. I've got the communications team monitoring reactions. The announcement had been crafted with strategic precision. Precision Systems acquires exclusive rights to revolutionary processing algorithm, welcomes creator Dr. Kira Jennings as Chief Innovation Officer. It detailed my background, emphasized my role as the sole inventor of the patented technology, and outlined how Precision Systems would integrate the algorithm into their next generation of products. Most importantly, It stated that any company currently using the technology would need to negotiate licensing agreements with Precision Systems moving forward. At precisely 9:15 a.m., my phone buzzed with the first text from my former team at TechVantage. Complete chaos here. What did you do? It was from Miguel, my lead developer. I smiled and quickly typed back, check your personal email. All 6 of you have offers waiting. Meanwhile, 8 miles away at TechVantage headquarters, the scheduled Monday morning executive meeting was undergoing a dramatic transformation. According to Miguel's updates, Victor had arrived at the office to find the company's general counsel and CFO waiting at his door. Both Ash and Fade, upon receiving the industry announcement, immediately raised alarms. By 9:30 a.m., what should have been a routine start-of-week meeting had turned into an emergency crisis session. Board members called in remotely, the legal team frantically reviewing my employment contract and the documentation surrounding the algorithm's development. They're pulling every file with your name on it, Miguel reported. Someone just wheeled in all the servers from the research division for the tech team to analyze. I could picture the scene perfectly. Victor pacing the conference room, demanding explanations from Marjorie and the legal department. The stock was already reacting to the news. Investors hated uncertainty, and the announcement had created plenty of it. At 10:45 a.m. I received an email from Victor himself, the desperation practically oozing from the screen. Kira, there appears to be a misunderstanding. Please call me at your earliest convenience to discuss. I forwarded it to Precision Systems' legal team without responding. By noon, the industry was abuzz with speculation. TechVantage's stock had dropped 7% since the market opened, while Precision Systems had seen a 12% increase. 3 different technology journals had already requested interviews with me about the strategic coup that had shaken the accounting software industry. How are you feeling? Greg asked, stopping by my office as I settled in. Validated, I replied honestly. 15 years of watching others take credit for my work, being told I should be grateful just to have a seat at the table, and now, finally, recognition. My new executive assistant appeared at the door. Dr. Jennings, the development team is ready for you in the main conference room. She hesitated. TechVantage's CEO has called 4 times in the last hour. Let him know I'm in meetings all day, I replied calmly. I'll have our legal team reach out to discuss licensing options later this week. As I walked toward my first meeting as Chief Innovation Officer, my phone buzzed with another update from Miguel. Board just called an emergency session. Victor looks like he's about to explode. P.S. My team and I accept your offer. When can we start? By Tuesday morning, the full impact of my departure was clear to everyone at TechVantage. Their flagship product, AccountSphere, relied entirely on my algorithm to process massive datasets that gave it an edge over competitors. Without licensing rights to my patent, they faced 2 equally unappealing options: negotiate with Precision Systems or rebuild their core technology from scratch, a process that would take years and millions in development costs. Victor has called an all-hands meeting for 2 p.m., Miguel texted. It was his last day at TechVantage. He and the rest of my former team would be starting at Precision Systems next Monday. Rumor is they're going to try to sue you. I forwarded his message to our legal department, who responded almost immediately, let them try. Your documentation is impeccable, development logs, timestamps, personal equipment usage, all clearly established. We've prepared for this scenario. Meanwhile, I was settling into my new role with remarkable ease. The respect I received at Precision Systems was a stark contrast to my final years at TechVantage. When I spoke in meetings, people actually listened. My ideas weren't repackaged by male colleagues and presented as their own. My age and experience were viewed as assets rather than liabilities. The engineering team is implementing your efficiency improvements, Greg informed me during our afternoon briefing. Early testing shows a 51% performance boost, better than we projected. I had several refinements I never shared with TechVantage, I admitted. After I discovered they were planning to eliminate my position, I didn't see any reason to give them my best efforts. Their loss was our gain, Greg said with a contented smile. Speaking of which, the first licensing inquiry came through this morning. Not from TechVantage yet, they're still in denial, but from Data Flow Systems. They're concerned about being caught in the crossfire. At 3:30 p.m., Miguel sent a detailed report on Victor's all-hands meeting. The CEO had attempted to project confidence, assuring the staff that TechVantage would vigorously defend our proprietary technology, but the unease in the room was palpable. Several employees had already updated their LinkedIn profiles, sensing the company's fragility. Marjorie looked like she might pass out when someone directly asked if they had failed to secure the patent. Miguel reported that Victor abruptly ended the question period after that. By Wednesday, the industry fallout had grown more intense. 2 major clients had contacted Precision Systems about switching from account Sphere, concerned about TechVantage's ability to maintain the product without the algorithm's creator. Our stock had risen another 8%, while TechVantage's continued its decline. I received a call from Denise in H. The same woman who had slid my severance package across the table just days before. "Kira," she began, her tone carefully neutral, "I'm calling to discuss the situation with your patent. We believe there may have been a misunderstanding about ownership rights." "I don't think there's any misunderstanding," I replied calmly. "My employment agreement clearly states that intellectual property developed on my own time, using my own resources, remains mine. The patent documentation confirms that." "Victor was hoping you might consider coming in to discuss options," she said. "Any discussions would need to go through Precision Systems' legal department," I responded. "I'm sure they'd be happy to set up a meeting to discuss licensing terms." There was a long pause. Finally, Denise sighed. "I'll pass that along." That afternoon, I led my first formal presentation to Precision Systems' board of directors, outlining our technology roadmap, with my algorithm at its core. Standing confidently at the head of the table, not hidden at the back as I had been at TechVantage, I caught Greg's approving nod. By Friday, just 1 week after I had left TechVantage for the last time, the company had entered full crisis mode. Their stock had dropped 23% since Monday's opening bell, triggering concerned calls from major investors. Industry analysts were publishing speculative articles with titles like, "Can TechVantage survive the algorithm crisis?" and "How one strategic blunder may cost a tech giant everything." Through my industry contacts, I learned that Victor had finally acknowledged the severity of the situation to the board. TechVantage would either need to license my algorithm from Precision Systems, likely at exorbitant rates that would decimate their profit margins, or rebuild account Sphere entirely without using any technology covered by my patent. They had started interviewing for a new development team, Miguel informed me during our Friday video call, where we also discussed his upcoming transition to Precision Systems. "Victor's claiming they can recreate the functionality in 6 months," Miguel said. I couldn't help but laugh. "The original algorithm took me 3 years to perfect, and that was with intimate knowledge of the problem space." "Exactly," Miguel agreed. "No one's believing that timeline, especially after your team posted their resignation letter simultaneously. The knowledge drain is massive." That afternoon, TechVantage's attorneys finally reached out to Precision Systems to open discussions about potential licensing arrangements. Our legal team, following the strategy we had developed, responded with terms that were technically fair but strategically painful. 3 times the standard industry licensing rate, plus a public acknowledgement of my role as the technology's inventor. "They'll balk at the acknowledgement more than the cost," Greg predicted as we reviewed the response in his office. "Victor's ego won't allow him to admit he pushed out the person who created their core technology." "Then they'll have to rebuild," I replied. "And every day they spend trying to replicate my work is another day we extend our lead in the market." The following Monday morning, 10 days after my unceremonious dismissal, I led my first meeting with my newly assembled innovation team, which included Miguel and the other 5 engineers from TechVantage. The energy in the room was electric as we mapped out the next evolution of my algorithm. "This is how development meetings should be," commented Anita, one of my former team members at TechVantage. "We spent half our time explaining basic concepts to executives who wouldn't listen anyway." "That's the difference between being valued and being seen as replaceable," I replied. "Here your expertise is recognized." As we wrapped up the productive session, my assistant appeared at the door. "Dr. Jennings, there's been a significant development with TechVantage. Their board just announced an emergency leadership change. Victor Lawson is stepping down effective immediately." The news spread quickly. Within hours, industry publications were reporting that TechVantage's board had lost confidence in Victor's leadership after the patent oversight threatened the company's flagship product. Marjorie Thompson was also out, along with the head of legal who had failed to properly secure the patent. That evening, I received an unexpected email from Richard Donovan, TechVantage's newly appointed interim CEO. Unlike Victor's desperate message from the previous week, this one was straightforward and respectful. Dr. Jennings, congratulations on your new position. I've been brought in to help TechVantage navigate the current situation. I'd like to discuss a fair licensing arrangement for your patented technology. We're prepared to publicly acknowledge your contributions and make appropriate amends for the oversights of previous management. Would you be available to meet next week? I forwarded the email to Greg, adding a simple note, Phase 1 complete. His reply came quickly, beautifully executed. The board is celebrating your first major victory for Precision Systems. Looks like TechVantage is finally learning an expensive lesson about valuing innovation and innovators. 3 months after my departure from TechVantage, I sat on stage at the National Technology Innovation Conference, preparing to deliver the keynote address. The room was filled with industry leaders, technology journalists, and aspiring developers, many of whom were now familiar with my journey. And now, I'm honored to introduce our keynote speaker, the conference organizer announced. Dr. Kira Jennings, Chief Innovation Officer at Precision Systems and the creator of the distributed processing algorithm that has transformed data management across various industries. The applause was loud and heartfelt as I made my way to the podium. What a difference just a few months had made. The previous year, I had attended this very conference as part of the TechVantage delegation, sitting in the back while Victor presented his company's innovations. Thank you, I began, scanning the eager faces before me. Today, I want to discuss innovation, ownership, and the critical importance of valuing intellectual contributions, no matter their source. My presentation outlined not just the technicalities of my algorithm, but also addressed the larger concerns of recognition and respect within the tech sector. Without directly calling out TechVantage, I stressed the need for companies to protect their innovators rather than treating them as expendable resources. Later, at the reception, a group of young female engineers approached me, eager for advice and mentorship. One of them, barely 30, confided, "Your story changed how I document my work. I started keeping detailed logs of my development process during my own time." "Smart move," I replied. "Your innovations deserve protection." As the evening wound down, I checked my phone and saw a news alert. TechVantage had officially announced a licensing agreement with Precision Systems, recognizing me as the algorithm's creator. Their stock had leveled off, though it had significantly dropped from its prior valuation. 1 year to the day after being told to clear out my desk, I sat in my spacious office at Precision Systems, reviewing the quarterly innovation report. Under my leadership, the company had launched 3 groundbreaking products based on my algorithm, capturing a substantial market share from TechVantage and other competitors. A knock at my door broke my concentration. It was Greg holding a bottle of champagne and 2 glasses. "Happy anniversary," he said, setting the glasses on my desk. "The board asked me to share this news with you before the public announcement. Precision Systems has now surpassed TechVantage in market valuation for the first time in company history." I smiled, feeling not triumph but a quiet sense of satisfaction. That's what happens when innovation is truly valued. As Greg poured the champagne, I noticed a sleek envelope on my desk. Inside was an invitation to speak at the Women in Technology Annual Leadership Summit. The topic, Owning Your Intellectual Value: How Proper Documentation Changed an Industry. "You've become somewhat of an icon," Greg remarked, noticing the invitation. The story of the executive who failed to recognize what she had until it was gone had become a cautionary tale in corporate boardrooms. Richard Donovan, who had remained CEO of TechVantage after the crisis, had instituted sweeping reforms in how the company acknowledged and rewarded innovation. Their new policies on intellectual property protection and inventor recognition were said to be modeled after the program I had developed at Precision Systems. "It was never about revenge," I said, raising my glass in a toast. "It was about recognition, about showing the industry that innovation isn't anonymous. It comes from real people who deserve real credit." Greg clinked his glass against mine. As the afternoon sun poured through the windows of my office, I reflected on my journey. At 56, I had finally achieved what had eluded me throughout my career. Not just success but true recognition. My name was now forever tied to the algorithm that had revolutionized the industry, exactly where it belonged.